today we have got somebody incredible for you guys. One of the most recorded bass players in history. And today he's going to be showing us, well, his bass, which honestly I'm guessing is the most recorded bass in commercial music history. Over 2,000 albums so far in his career. He's recorded with Phil Collins, Diana Ross, Toto, Carole King, James Taylor, Neil Diamond, and today he's going to be showing you the bass, not this bass, the bass that he is most known for. It's legendary in the bass community. So with that said, here he is, the man, the myth, the legend, the amazing Lee Sklar.
We ended up building this bass back in like 1973. This is on probably 85% of everything I've ever recorded. And this is just a sweet. So I'll give you an explanation of what this bass is all about. This is a bass that this is probably one of the most recorded basses in contemporary music history. This has probably been on close to 2,400 albums. I've played it on probably 85% of everything I've worked on. Now, at one point, I don't know how the hell I ended up with it, but I ended up with this neck, which was a 62 Precision, Fender Precision neck. My first really good bass was a jazz bass. If it had been a Precision, I'd probably be loving Precisions, but it was a jazz bass, which I still have that instrument. But so I had this neck, and back in the early 70s, the main watering hole in Los Angeles for most of the musicians was Westwood Music on Westwood Boulevard in West LA. Fred Wallachy, it was his music store. And you'd go into that place, anytime you walked in there, you'd see Ry Cooder, Jackson Browne, all these guys. Everybody was always hanging out there. There was a room for jamming in there. John Carruthers was the repairman. He did all the repair service and custom work there. So I took this neck to him and we started talking about it. And there was a company out here near where I live now in San Dimas called Charvel, and they made replacement parts for instruments. And this was one of the bodies they made. This was it's an alder body that was a precision body. So there's actually underneath this cover is the cutout where the precision pickups would have gone on this bass. So I went out to Charvel and there was a stack of these bodies, and I went through the whole stack, hung each one from a piece of wire to where it was really just hanging, and I just tapped on them, and this body resonated better than any of the others. So I said, look, I'll take that one. So I took this back to John. I took my original 62 jazz bass in, and we did a profile of that neck and ended up reshaping this neck into the same profile as my 62 jazz. Now, during the course of doing that, we had to strip the frets out of the bass to cut the neck down and do all the reshaping. And I was walking around his shop, and I saw those spools of fret wire hanging on the wall in his shop, and I thought, what's this wire? And pointed it out, and he said, that's mandolin wire. I said, let's try that. And he went, that won't work. He says, you'll wear that out immediately because it's the smallest fret wire you could get. And I said, look, I'd like to try it at least. If it sucks, then we can refret the bass properly. But let's try it at least and see what happens. I've used this bass on so many records, and I play hard. I'm not a real delicate. When I'm playing, I really dig in, and I like a lot of wiggle. This is the third refret on this bass since like 1974. So it was not an issue putting these on, but I'll tell you, the minute I played the bass with these frets on it, it was a game changer for me. And all of my basses have them, my Dingwall signature, my Warwick bass, everything comes with mandolin frets on them. So then, to move on with it, so these are, when Rob Turner started EMG, these were some of his very first pickups that he manufactured. And the interesting thing in these is if you look at them up close, they say EMG on the front. It's hard to see on them now. But this was the only generation of them that did this, and after that it became like a little letter on the side. But the thing I was thinking about with what Leo Fender did on his original instrument, these pickups would have actually been reversed in position. This one would have been here, and this one would have been here, but located under here. But so I thought, by the nature of, they're going to read better than the A and the E would, the G and the D. So I said, why would that pickup be closer to the bridge where there's more clarity? So I said, let's reverse them and try that. And it just ended up just being one of these. It's so even, and it was all, I think, because of the placement of these pickups, but I've almost worn this cover off, and there's a dent within the body here where my thumb would normally sit. I mean, that's how much this bass has been used. So underneath this cover is where the precision pickups would have gone, but there's, each one of these runs on a 9-volt, so there's 2 9-volt batteries under here. So we use this as a battery compartment rather than cutting more holes into it. And it's got a badass bridge on it, and then this is one of the prototypes for the hip shot detuner, which when you're playing your, let me do this, help me. So if you're playing your E string and you want to drop it to a D, what it does is it moves the entire, it's like a cam assembly, which was perfect for me with James Taylor, because we had a number of songs like Country Road and Mill Worker that were in drop D tunings. And there's pros and cons to this. If I was playing a 5-string bass and wanted to play a low D, I would have to finger the D, and then that would restrict my hand, where with this, if I can have an open D going and not have to do it, so I could do the melodic part of the song. So actually, for this, having this on a 4-string gives me more flexibility than a B string on a 5-string. But there's other times, I mean, they both serve, it's all tools. I always look at it as though, you know, a plumber comes to your house, an electrician, anybody comes to work, they generally have a toolbox, and it's got Makita and Ryobi and Milwaukee tools, all kinds of different tools in them for different jobs. These basses all serve different functions to me. So, I've got about 4 basses that pretty much do everything that I need.
Doesn't much matter what they mean. She says they're mostly just to calm me
but
down.
Then with the autographs is a whole other story. In 1981, the Los Angeles Dodgers won the World Series, and we got called to go in the studio with it was the Big Blue Wrecking Crew, they were called. And they asked us to come in the studio, and they wanted to record We Are the Champions, Queen's We Are the Champions. So we went in there, and at the end of the session, the guys were signing baseballs. So I got baseball signed and all that, but I said, hey, how about signing my bass? Because this bass at that point was just wood, had nothing on it. And they said, really? I said, yeah, come on. So they all signed it, and that was it for a little while. Then I was on tour with James Taylor, and we did I forget where the gig was, but Rocky Blyer and Lynn Swann, they were football players with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they saw the bass and they said, oh, baseball players are pussies, you need football players on it. So they signed it. Ever since then, I mean, it's just been crazy, the amount of people that have signed this, and also who have come and gone, but there's some very important ones, like right here is Jeff Porcaro, is right there next to my heart. And then right on the other side, it's hard to see now, but there's Larry London, who was another one of my favorite drummers ever. And but there's all kinds of cast of characters that have come and gone on this. I mean, I've got George Lucas was right there, and he wrote "May the Force Be with You," and then Peter Max, the artist Peter Max, put a little Saturn next to that, and there's Joan Baez, and there's Oscar the Grouch from when we did Sesame Street. I've got Clapton wrote "Hi Lee," EC on it. Hugh Padgham, the engineer who did all of Phil Collins and Genesis, there's B.B. King down there. And then on the back, there's all kinds of people on it. From Merle Haggard, there's Flaco Jimenez, the great Tex-Mex accordion player, Rodney Crowell. I mean, for me, it's just a wonderful trip down memory lane every time I play this instrument. It's really close to my heart. So I've ended up calling it Frankenstein because this was like body parts. Now, in reality, Frankenstein was the doctor, and then there was the monster. This is really the monster, but I call it Frankenstein for that. So this is my go-to bass. When I go to the studio, this is the first thing that I would be inclined to play. But everything is predicated on the song. So I wait to hear the song and see what the song needs before I make a determination of instrument. If I know the song needs a 5-string, I won't use this. If it's got anything where I would not necessarily needing, the D tuner or something, but if it was like down there with a D and a C, then I would use my Dingwall for that. And then the only other bass that I would probably be bringing with me is I have a signature bass that I did with Warwick. That's it's based on their Star bass, which is a semi-acoustic bass. And so the thing is, I've tried to have each instrument be unique in its needs. I'm not one of these, gear whores that's just out there, getting as much gear as they possibly can. I really only commit to instruments when I know I can use it all the time, and it serves a purpose. So between Frankenstein and Dingwall and Warwick, I'm pretty well covered. And now all I want is to have the pandemic end so that I can get my ass in the studio and back on the road again, which is what I'm missing like there's no tomorrow. So.
Amazing.